He knows how we're wired. And so there's a reason why he tells us over and over again to be thankful. He knows how we're wired. He knows we are at our best when we're walking in gratitude. This is how we're designed to work. And that's why, when we're cultivating a heart of gratitude, we find ourselves being happier. There's actually a mountain of scientific evidence that proves this. In fact, there's a whole field now, a whole field of science called the science of gratitude. Do you know that? I didn't know that till this week, and I'm just so grateful that I found this out and studied this. It started as the science of happiness about a decade and a half earlier. And these scientists wanted to find out what makes people happy. And so, because everyone wants to be happy, so this would be a pretty important scientific discovery. And what they found is by far and away, the common denominator that happy people had in common was that they were grateful. And they started doing tests and all these different things about teaching people how to be grateful, and they would measure happiness, and without exception, it's like a law of nature, people become happier as they become more grateful. And so now they just call it the science of gratitude. The science of gratitude. A pioneer and leader in this field is Dr. Robert Emmons. He wrote a book. Some of you might want to check this out. It's really interesting. Thanks is the title of the book. How the New Science of Gratitude Can Make You Happier. He just reports on all scientific research. Really interesting stuff. So I'm just going to give you a little snippet of this scientific stuff. If this isn't the kind of thing that excites you, well then just bear with me as I geek out for a moment. But this is really interesting stuff to me. Okay, so in this one study, Robert Emmons and this other scientist, Michael McCullough at the University of Miami, they did a 10-week study. And they took a random bunch of people and randomly divided them into 3 groups. Group number 1 was told to, for 10 weeks every day, write in a journal, to notice and record things that they were grateful for. Group number 2 was to notice and record things that irritated them, things that they wish were different. And group number 3 was just to record or notice and write down things that affected them for better or for worse, just what you liked or what you didn't like. At the end of 10 weeks, they found that group number 3 was the same. They just reported what affected them, and they were the same. Group number 2, that wrote down things that irritated them, were less happy, more miserable. But group number 1, that recorded every day things that they noticed that they were grateful for, they were significantly happier than they were before this study. Significantly. In fact, not only that, but they found that this group tended to be more optimistic than they had been before. They had less anxiety and less stress than they did before. This surprised them. They got sick significantly less than the other 2 groups, and than they did before. They exercised more than the other groups, and no one told them to exercise more or anything, and they don't even remember, for the most part, making a decision about it. They just wanted to exercise more. Who knows? They found this group was more empathetic. Their capacity for empathy had increased, and so they were helping people more than they had before. And they found that this group developed more new social contacts than they had before. There's something about gratitude that seems to attract people to you, and you develop more relationships and stuff. All of that because for 10 weeks they simply noticed and wrote down things that they were thankful for. In another study done by Martin Seligman, he's a psychologist at the University of Pennsylvania, he took 411 people and over a period of time just had them do different behaviors, and then would measure the degree to which that behavior improved or decreased their sense of happiness. One of the things that this guy had them do was they had to think of somebody that had been kind to them or had assisted them in some way when they were young, either in childhood or early teen years. Someone whom they had never thanked. And then they were to write out a thank you letter and personally deliver it to them. And that one activity, more than anything else they did, increased people's happiness. In fact, it increased it such that in some cases, it was still measurable a month later, even though they hadn't done anything in terms of gratitude in between. It had a month-long lasting effect. That one act increased their happiness. Finally, in another study, it concerns 65 adults that had severe neuromuscular disease. And they took these folks and divided them into 2 groups. And for 21 days, they were to write in a journal, daily write in a journal, different things. Group number 1 was supposed to record, just make observations about their health and about their sense of well-being. Just don't try to change it, just report what's there. And their caregivers were also told to daily write in a journal about their patients' health and sense of well-being. Okay, that's group number one. Group number two was, and you can probably predict this now, they were told to notice and record things that they were grateful for 21 days. And their caregivers were to have the same assignment as group number one. They just would observe their health and their sense of well-being and record that. Well, at the end of 21 days, group number one was the same as it was before the 21-day study, but group number two was significantly changed. Both the patients and the caregivers reported a significant change in the happiness of this group. But it wasn't just that. They also had a more optimistic outlook. Surprisingly, and they don't know why this is the case, but the group slept better. On average, they slept better than they did before the study. Their overall health improved, and the symptoms from their neuromuscular disease lessened somewhat. And their level of irritation and anxiety over those symptoms was less. And so just 21 days of recording things that you're grateful for made that much difference in their happiness, in their sleep, and these other areas. Which leads me to this. They say it takes 21 days, 3 weeks, to lock down a new habit. And that's what we're talking about here. This tweak has got to become a habit of ours. So I want to issue here a Boyd challenge. Starting today, I challenge you to write down, several times throughout the day, write down things that you notice that you're grateful for, and just write them down. And after 3 weeks, let's see if we're not smiling more than we used to. All right? The Boyd challenge. Do this discipline. Just notice things that you're grateful for, and just start writing them down. And the more specific, the better. Don't just say, well, I'm thankful for my granddaughter. What is it about her that you're thankful for? And write those things down and give thanks to God for that blessing.